David with Fantasy Draft Assistant, and in this video I'm going to show how to use Draft Tracker in dock mode and floating mode. If you had used a previous version of Fantasy Draft Assistant, you'll be more familiar with floating mode, which is the classic mode of Draft Tracker. But in version 5 I have added a dock mode, which I hope will be easier for some users. So if we launch the Draft Tracker, the first time you will see dock mode by default now. Now don't worry, the float mode is still there, and I will show you how to switch that in just a second. But to go over dock mode first, the idea is, unlike floating mode, it's one window for which your screens can be placed. So you can arrange the screens how you will within this dock mode window. As you can see, I just resized this right panel just by clicking the border between them here. So by default it will launch in these sections, and you can see I can have windows left and right of each other, or top and bottom, or they can be sort of on top of each other in different tabs like these three screens here are. At any time, if you want to change where a window is, you just click the header of that window and you can drag it. If you drag it like that, it will just float on top of the other windows. Or you can drag it, and if I want it to be to the right, you can see the little icon here, and then it will show that it will be to the right of those screens. Or I could pull it off and do it on the bottom of those screens. Or this middle icon will show it on top, and that will create a tabbed view like in that. And when it's in tab, you can simply click and drag and pull it back off. So you can still use the toolbar or the right click menu to hide certain screens as you would have during the floating mode. So I can hide whatever screens I would like and have as many or as few open in this dock mode. You can also use the pin version, which is this little pin here, which will do an auto hide. So for instance, I can auto hide the toolbar, and then it will show up as just a little tab, and when I mouse over it, then the toolbar will pop back out. Or I can simply click that pin again to put it back. So the idea here is now you're working within one window, and this one window will behave more like normal windows in Microsoft Windows. So to switch between modes, I can click this icon here on the toolbar that says switch to floating mode, and then it will launch in floating mode just as it would have in previous versions. So in floating mode, your windows will stay on top of anything underneath. The idea being, if you have a draft tracker from a site such as CBS running, it will stay on top, and you can position the windows as you see fit on top of that draft window. And you can see I can resize, I can hide and show windows, and I can lay them out however I would like. Common across modes, you can now right click and click form alignments. There's also the option here to switch modes, or you can click save current layout. And what that will do is give you this window where you can name your layout. And then now if I switch to docked mode and I right click again and I click form alignments, now I'll have this switch alignment to and then my demo layout. So this is the name I gave it a second ago. So if I click that, it will go directly back in the floating mode to that layout. You can do the same thing in dock mode. So if I switch to dock mode and I add a couple of screens, again I'm going to right click, say form alignment, save current layout, and I'll call it my docked layout. And now I can right click and say form alignment, switch to my demo layout, which you remember is my floating mode, or I can right click any screen same way and switch back to my dock layout, and it's remembering. So in this way, if you have a couple of different ways you like to use it, or if you like to use Draft Tracker differently with some online drafts than others, you can save those and retrieve them at any time. By default, the Draft Tracker will return to the previous layout you were using even if you didn't save it. So if I close out now and I launch Draft Tracker again, it will come up exactly like this. So if you set it how you want it, by default you won't have to change anything. But all of this is configurable. If I exit the Draft Tracker and I go into options, all of these options for which layouts launch at default are configurable here, as well as you can remove any layouts that you don't want to use any longer. Feel free to use the Draft Tracker in whichever mode you prefer, or you can mix and match across different drafts, whatever becomes more convenient for you. Thank you for watching this video. For more information on Fantasy Draft Assistant, you can watch the other videos. Thank you.